If Deku is transported to danmachi part 2. Now, before we jump into this what if, let's start off with the shout outs to people who've joined my Discord. Alex Mom 26, Person, Majin Z, Xylo Arts, What If Karma, Some Dude, and Drag Knight X. Thank you all for joining the Discord. If you want to get a shout out, go down into the link in the description down below. Join the Discord, chat, have fun. Sometimes we play Among Us games with each other. It's a pretty pleasurable experience for most people. Now let's jump straight into this what if. Now where we last left off, Izuku was thinking to himself. After getting a recommendation from his dungeon advisor to join a familiar, he got a list of familiars. As he looked for the list, he recognized some names from simple bits and bobs that he had learned over his years at school. Names like Loki and Hephaestus were both pretty well-known gods. So Deku was thinking about it, and he's like, I'll go talk with Loki. He really didn't know much about the god itself and just figured maybe it was nice to have the names of gods overlap. Especially after Izuku found out that Loki was a goddess in this one. He presumed that maybe gods and goddesses from his own world are not like gods and goddesses from this world. So he really didn't expect much of it. Deku fell asleep that night, wondering about the situation at hand, if he would ever see anyone that he knew from his home world. The situation as he knew it was very saddening to him. He doesn't know anyone here. Of course, there are a few nice people like Ina who helped him during the situations when it comes to the dungeon, but that was her job. It wasn't like it extended much outside of that. Izuku fell asleep wondering those ideas. Next morning, he woke up. He ended up waking up pretty early, since Ina told him that it's better to hunt in the earlier mornings. Deku ended up walking around town in the earlier part of his morning. He had enough funds from yesterday to actually go ahead and go buy some stuff to eat. So he got himself some nice food for breakfast. Just some simple ham on bread, but it was enough to see him through for breakfast. He also got a juice as well. Deku didn't know what type of juice it was, but he bought it nonetheless. He then went into the dungeon. Most of that day was spent just fighting monsters until about around what Deku could deduce to be about around 6 o'clock in the afternoon. He came out of the dungeon and went to the guild and turned in his stuff, while Ina asked him if he had joined a familiar. Deku said no. He still really didn't trust gods or goddesses. Especially after the base concept of his world, he still felt kind of cheated by the god in his own world, if there was a god in his world, because this god had made him work quirkless. So the aspect of gods being in this world kind of left a bad taste in his mouth, especially when he found out that they fought over each other, almost pitied the old people who had obviously been decades, if not hundreds of years older than him. Deku ended up sighing and giving in to Ina's questioning about him going to a dungeon. She then found out that she told Izuku that she'll get in contact with Loki, and that Loki seemed to be a pretty good goddess for Izuku, because Izuku's strength was unmatched by any other person, especially people that weren't even a level. So she figured that Loki would have no issue accepting Izuku into her ranks, and also helping him grow, because she actually cared about her children, like most goddesses did. Deku sighed when he heard this, and just decided to go along with it. He bought a He bought a house that day. Wasn't really a big house, but it was a small one. Izuku figured if he was forced to stay here for a while, he might as well get his living covered. And if you're wondering how Izuku bought a house that quickly, he's literally making about 3 to 4 times as much as a level 1 adventurer would usually make. Like, Izuku's making mad bucks from going into the dungeon. Deku woke up the next morning. He stretched. It was early in the morning, so Izuku expected that when he got there, that Loki shouldn't even be there. To his surprise, when he entered the guild building, Ina called him over as he sat down. In front of him sat a girl that Deku recognized. It was the girl he asked for directions to the guild hall. The girl saw the boy in front of her as she smiled. She looked smaller than Deku and much younger too. Deku remembered that she was a goddess and probably was immortal. At least from what Deku knew, gods were immortal. Of course, they've been killed in myths and legends, but that's a different thing. Izuku reached his hand out and said, "Hello, I'm Izuku Midoriya." The goddess in front of him smiled, a slightly sinister smirk, and she said, "I know who you are, kid. Now, I heard that you're a new adventurer and that you need a familiar to join, correct?" Izuku said, "Yeah, I need a familiar to join, or at least that's what Ina said. She said I need a familiar. Even though I believe my skills alone would probably be enough to get me down. Maybe to the 10th or 11th before I have to use more of my power." You think you could go down to the 10th or 11th floor on your own? Well, yesterday I went down to 7th, solo, without any assistance. Loki was kind of shocked by this. Like, a guy that does not have any blessing of a god went down to the 7th floor solo? Most people who go down past the 5th floor have at least 1 to 2 members, or at the very least a supporter. This guy went down solo, without anyone in his party. Loki smiled as she started to realize that this guy was way stronger than she expected. She knew something was amiss with him when she first saw him 2 days ago, but now after seeing him again, she realized that he is 100% someone that she should get into her familiar. It could help increase her power tenfold, if not 20-fold. If this guy is not even a level 1 yet, she couldn't even imagine what would happen when he got to a level 5. Heck, maybe even a level 6. Loki's smile started to grin wider. Deku noticed this and felt a slight tingency in his stomach telling him not to really trust the goddess that much. Deku sat back in the chair after, introducing himself and shaking Loki's hand, and said, "Loki, if I remember correctly, you're the goddess of trickery, correct?" Deku said this to throw out a bone to see how familiar the gods in this universe were to gods of his own. And Loki says, "Yes, I am. I have a divinity in trickery." Izuku instantaneously realized that his world and this one seemed to be very similar, but it seems like some of the gods had been gender swapped. Izuku sighed when he heard this, which caught Loki's attention as she asked, What's wrong with a goddess of trickery?" Izuku says, "There's nothing wrong with a goddess of trickery." "So, Loki, I heard that you're a pretty strong familiar. I don't know why you all would need me, but Ina said that I would probably be a good personnel in most familiars." "Well, kid, if what you say is true, you're better than good. God, there's almost no people that can compete against you at your level. Heck, you could probably beat level 3s if what you say is true. And just so you know, my ability at being a goddess of trickery tends to let me get to know if someone was lying." "So, kid, seeing how I know you haven't been lying, that even makes me want to raise even more questions. How are you this strong? What is going on? So, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I think I'll let you into my familiar." Izuku was kind of like shocked by this, like, wow, that was way easier than I expected. Izuku then corrected his posture. Loki had noticed all this, and Izuku was like, okay, but can I continue working solo? Loki was kind of confused by this, and Ina kind of frowned at this, mainly because she didn't want Izuku to work solo, period. The peer aspect of someone working solo really didn't put pleasant thoughts into her mind, especially when she was the main advisor for the personnel that's assigned to work solo. Loki asked, and why is that, kid? And Deku stated, well, let's make a vow real quick to not release any information before I tell you why I choose to work solo currently. Okay. What, is this half-elf also gonna take the vow? Oh, she already has. Loki was kind of confused by this, but understood that Deku wasn't really lying. She could tell from his base posture and as well as her divinities. Okay then, kid. Deku took a vow with her. Deku took a vow to never speak of any of the information outside of this conversation, unless if he permits the information to be spread, which Loki took the same exact one. Afterwards, Deku started explaining, hello, my name is Izuku Midoriya. I'm a hero from a different dimension, or from what I could understand, a different dimension. A different dimension, kid? What are you on about? Izuku then started to explain how, in his world, humans have innate superpowers, and how gods and goddesses and elves and half-elves and dwarves and half-dwarves and every other weird random beast species under the sun doesn't exist. But humans have an ability called quirks, or they genetically mutate to have quirks. Gods were more of a myth, so the idea of gods exists, but they didn't physically exist. And Deku gave, for example, Loki. Goddess of trickery here in my world was Loki, god of trickery. He was well known for being a partner with frost giants, as well as had a brother named Thor in most TV renditions of himself. Oh yeah, and was the son of Odin. Odin, huh? Haven't spoken to Batman in a while. Yeah, so as you can see, the base difference is immeasurable. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit apprehensive about talking with anyone from this world. Oh, and why is that? Same reason why I was apprehensive to joining a familiar. If I get lucky enough to find some way to get back to my world, I don't want to feel bad for leaving everyone back here behind. Is that the case, kid? Yeah. I would feel horrible if I just left an area that I could be helping in. Well, that's simple enough. Don't leave. But I've already left an area that I'm meant to be helping in. You put yourself at quite a conundrum, kid. I agree. I don't know what I should do, though. Well, I'll let you stay to your own party, I guess. But you will have to go on expeditions and stuff, and you will have to check in at the end of every day. Check in for what? Oh yeah, you're not from here. I'm pretty sure you already know that most personnel get a type of thing on their back that shows their, well, I don't know, shows their stats. Okay. So, basically, when you level up, your stats get reset to 0. They can max out at 999, but most people don't tend to max out their stats before leveling up. Okay. So, basically, what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, you can stay solo, but you are going to have to check in with me. You don't have to tell me everything you're doing, like every day you go into a dungeon, but you will have to check in. And I'm talking you personally. You can't just write a report and give it to one of your higher up personnel, because there is kind of like a ranking system in the Familiar itself. Okay. Now, I do also recommend you get a supporter. A supporter? Yes, a supporter is someone who helps pick up the magic cores and just makes the process more easier. Usually, Palmos are the supporter. Okay. And also, kid, I want you to be careful. Okay. Izuku followed Loki back to the mansion, Twilight Mansion. Izuku entered. Someone met them at the gate. The man, well, Izuku found out it was a man. It actually, when he first walked up, it seemed to be a boy, about around younger than him at a smaller height. Loki explained that this was the captain, Captain Flynn. Izuku said, "Are you a Familia?" And Captain Flynn said, "Yes, I am. I heard you're the newer member, right?" "Yes, my name is Izuku Midoriya. How's your day?" "It's very good." "Welcome to the Familiar. If you have any issues, come to me, or come to someone else. We'll all be willing to help you." "Thank you," Izuku said. Izuku walked inside the building and followed Loki up to a room. Loki told Izuku that this is gonna hurt a little bit. And Izuku asked, "What do you mean it's gonna hurt a little bit?" "Well, you see, when a human goes through the ceremony, it's like we're physically implanting a portion of ourselves inside the human. Or any species that go through it." "What do you mean by implanting a portion of yourself?" How should I explain this? Basically, every time you level up, you get closer to becoming a god. Okay. So, after every time you level up, your body can contain more energy, allowing you to increase your parameters higher and higher. Okay. So, for that to work, we need to help you with our own powers ourselves. Okay. So, in other words, we're going to physically change your body so it can accept fauna. Okay, and what's that? It's like the magic of this world on a more determinate level. Okay. Izuku took a deep breath as he felt the process start to begin. It didn't hurt nearly as much as he expected it to. Eventually, by the end of it, Izuku got a weird clown-looking thing on his back. It looked like a clown. Izuku then thanked Loki for accepting him in, even under his weird conditions. Loki said, "Don't worry about it, kid. Trust me, I've heard way weirder conditions than that." "Even weirder conditions? What do you mean?" "We have this one girl who is very, very strict about not letting her past be revealed, or not revealed as much, and being treated the same as everyone else." "Oh, okay. Well, you really don't even have to go around to talk to anyone. All of them are basically just personnel. If you want to talk to, you can talk to. I'm not going to force it against you to talk to any of them, especially after knowing your situation. Personally, I would have made a similar move. Even though you might not believe it, our actions are affected by our divinities." "What do you mean?" "So, personally, my actions are always affected by me trying to trick people. That's what my personality has based. Mainly because of my divinity to trick people. But if you look at other people's personalities, they're different." Okay. Okay. Yep. And the process is all done. "So, your stats are all I0. It seems you have a couple skills, though." "Skills?" Izuku instantaneously thought, oh shit. "Does that mean she can see my quirk and stuff? Does my quirk count as a skill in this world?" As Izuku constantly thought multiple questions, she said, "It seems like you have a couple of innate skills." Oh, really? What are they?" "Something called Black Whip and One for all. It also seems like you have other skills, but I can't make them out, as well as another one called float. So far you have no development skills and no magic, but it's weird to see someone have what appears to be 7 skills to start off. I can't even read any more information about them. It's just that, it's a skill. Oh, that's so weird. I wonder what they could mean, Deku said as he fake touches his head. Loki can tell that Izuku is lying, but decided against actually pushing him for any information, knowing that if Izuku wanted to, he can talk about it. If he didn't, she wasn't gonna have to. That was one of his requirements while joining. Izuku says thank you to Loki. He could feel stronger. It wasn't too much stronger, but he definitely could feel stronger. Almost like his body was slightly weightless. Not as weightless as like not feel like weight at all, but was enough to make him feel like he would float, even without activating his float quirk. Izuku said before leaving that those skills are his quirks. And she's like, I thought you said a person can only have one quirk. My quirk's a little bit unique, Izuku says, as he calmly walks out the door. He walks past Captain Flynn as he talks to the small Familia in front of him. Izuku says, well, I'll be going now. Well, hopefully you have a safe trip. So I guess that takes it that you won't be staying in the manor. No, I've already procured private living arrangements prior to joining the Familiar. I don't want to be a burden on anyone. Well, just remember, if you ever need assistance, the door's always open. It's okay, Izuku says as he walks out. Izuku breathed out like it was a massive weight that just got lifted off his chest. Izuku decided that he would be going down to the 15th floor tomorrow. He heard that there were creatures called minotaurs with very sharp horns, and also that they were known as rookie killers mainly because of how quickly they can kill weaker adventurers. Izuku decided it would be good to try it out. Solo. He also knew that the Loki Familiar would be heading into the dungeon tomorrow for an expedition. Apparently they don't have the entire dungeon mapped out yet, and that they will be slowly going deeper and deeper. But so far they seem to have hit a rock wall where they really can't explore too much deeper. Around floor 49, he thinks it was. 49, or was it 59? Izuku can't remember as he starts to scratch his head. He lays down in his bed inside of his house and thinks about everything that happened today. He joined a Familiar, being the second highest ranked Familiar. He also thought about people like Captain Flynn. He also heard about someone else that they were talking about called the Sword Princess, but he really didn't know who the Sword Princess was and really didn't want to have to get into a fight with her. Izuku woke up early the next morning, about around 3 a.m. He hoped that this would give him enough time to get a head start on the rest of the Familiar. He really just wanted to start going through. He ended up buying a couple sandwiches and placed them in his pouches around his waist. Izuku had ditched most of his gear, but he had a few pieces of his gear left. He now wore light armor, mainly just because of his basic abilities, being able to, keep him defended pretty much. He also wore his shoes that he originally got, but he decided to paint them red instead. He mainly just did it for aesthetics because he thought it made it look cool. Izuku then prepared to go into the dungeon. He cleared out the first couple of floors surprisingly quickly, quicker than most people could even if they tried their hardest. He then exited out onto the 15th dungeon floor. He realized that Minotaurs seemed to be quite weak actually, only needing to actually make them use about around 13 to 14% of one for all. He decided to go even deeper, gained to the 16th floor. He took out the monsters there until going down to the 17th. He really was kind of shocked at how quickly he could progress through these earlier floors. He heard that 1 through 17 were actually pretty easy. Or 1 through 16 were pretty easy. 17 had a boss on it that Izuku decided to wait until the rest of the familiar came before jumping in. And then the 18th floor was a safe zone he heard of. Izuku didn't know if he could make it to the safe zone yet, but he figured he could at least or at least could attempt to fight the boss, especially with how easy all these monsters were. Izuku then entered the 17th floor and ended up defeating everything up until where he found this weird, what seemed to be a crystal clear force field looking thing. He could put his hand through it. Eventually, Izuku decided to go all the way through. Meanwhile, while Izuku was entering into that room, the rest of the Loki expedition party made it down to the 17th floor. Bait was talking to Captain Flynn. He said, "I can't believe that rookie just left." You can't really expect everyone to just instantaneously show up, especially after the first day. I know, but Loki-sama herself even told him about it. He could have at least shown up for it. You gotta remember, Bait, he can't really show up for everything. Whatever. I'm just gonna go fight this Goliath and then take it down. I want to fight the Goliath, I said, with her dead expression on her face. Tion and Tiona both looked at Eyes and was like, "Eyes, you one-shotted it last time. Chill." They eventually rounded the corner to see someone already find the Goliath. It looked to be a small boy with green hair. Captain Finn automatically realized who that was. He's like, that's the rookie. Bay looked forward. He's like, "That's the rookie?" Deku, on the other hand, jumped around the Goliath's punch and sent a kick flying directly at the Goliath's arm, kicking it and knocking it to the side. Izuku was now at 20%. He saw that the rest of the familiar was there and realized that he was probably holding them up now. Izuku decided that it was no longer time to actually hold back, so he went on to 35. He knew he was pushing himself, but he could probably quickly take him out at 35%. Izuku started fighting. He realized that 35% really didn't do much to his body. Even though prior hand, it would probably cause slight fractures and even more dangerous injuries, it really didn't do much now. Izuku kept fighting, one punch after the another, a kick, a punch. Using Black Whip, he slammed the Goliath down behind him. Izuku then kicked and punched, and eventually he punched through the gut so hard that the Goliath toppled over. Izuku saw the crystal and remembered what they were talking about. Destroy the crystal, you killed a monster. Izuku then sent another kick, and then using the extra feature of his boots to send a secondary shockwave throughout the rest of the crystal, causing it to shatter. Izuku then span after kicking and landed straight on his feet. Izuku sat up, taking deep breaths, and felt around his body to see if he broke anything. He realized that he hadn't. In excitement, he started picking up all the small crystals and realized this is going to take a year. Afterwards, the rest of the familiars started to enter in. They had seen what Izuku does and was kind of shocked by it. Captain Finn walked up to Izuku first and said, "Yo, Izuku." "Oh, Captain Finn, how's your day?" "Sorry I didn't make it in the morning. I decided to enter the dungeon earlier to test myself real quick," Izuku said as he was starting to wipe the sweat off of his brow. Captain Finn was like, "Yeah, we saw your performance. It was quite amazing." "Oh, thank you. Even though I know that my capabilities probably weren't even that good, I couldn't even go 100% against it." "You couldn't even go 100%? "Yeah, I was more rocking about 35% of my power. 100% would have probably accidentally one-shot it, not to mention totally shatter my body in the process. That would suck. A lot." "What do you mean, shatter your body?" "Well, my power kind of outweighs my body's capabilities on being able to use it. So if I use 100%, I end up probably dying." "Well then, I see." Everyone else started to walk over, and eventually caught up to Captain Finn. Finn kind of jumped ahead. Bait looked at the kid standing in front of him. He noticed that he was a little bit taller than the kid, about around 10 to 15 centimeters shorter than him. He's like, "Hey, kid, Did you really take out that Goliath solo? Oh, yes, I did. He wasn't as hard as I thought. He was definitely a lot weaker than Overhaul. Deku started to laugh. And the guy looked at Izuku weird and he's like, Overhaul? Who's that? It's a creature that can manipulate matter and use it to extensive degrees as attacks. It uses earth magic to create spikes and can dismantle anything it touches and reassemble it however it chooses. What does that mean? Basically, say if I was the creature and I touched Captain Finn here, I would physically dismantle Captain Finn and fuse it into myself, causing me to have the same power as Captain Finn and my own power on top of it. Izuku says as a smile. Like a small smile appears on his face. Izuku was trying to scare them off at this point. Bait was like, yeah, right. No creature like that exists. And Izuku's like, if you want to, I'll take a vow right now. And I'll tell you that it exists. I'll take a vow on my soul. Bait, understanding that a vow on your soul, if broken, would destroy your soul, knew that this kid can't be lying. If he was willing to take a vow on his own soul itself. So you saying you defeated a creature like that? Yeah, it was really hard. My body kept destroying itself. Luckily, I had a friend that could turn back time. She chilled on my back and constantly turned back time for me. It was an innate skill of hers. Izuku, using all of his knowledge, tried to pull a fast one over most of the Loki familiar members. Eventually, Tiona and Tiona both were like, wow, kid, you're strong. And Izuku said, thanks. Yeah, I should probably train more, though. My reaction time was kind of slow. I said, I want to fight you. Izuku looked towards the girl in front of him, and he's like, are you sure? Yeah. And Bait's like, the Sword Princess wants to fight the new kid. Wow, you got a fiend against him or something? Ice states, no. It's just that he seems to be a pretty strong opponent. And I would like to fight him. Izuku then asked, what's your level? Oh, I'm a level 5? Nearing close to a level 6. Oh, well, that's cool. What is your level, actually, Izuku? Oh, I'm level 1. Everyone there gave Izuku, the look like, bullshit. Izuku said, I now take a vow to speak only the truth for the next 30 seconds. On my soul, if I do not uphold this vow, I will die. Suddenly, weird chains start to wrap around Izuku. And chains started to wrap around his heart as well. Izuku then said, hello. I am level 1. I have been level 1 since yesterday. I do not think my parameters could grow to the point to actually affect my base abilities, yet I see being a level 1 definitely increased my endurance and strength by a megaton. Everyone was shocked because Izuku made a vow on his soul first off, and that shocked everyone. Finn was about to cover Izuku's mouth before he could finish it, but it was too late by that point. And then everyone else was shocked that Izuku had actually gone through with the vow itself, and he was speaking the truth nonetheless. After about 60 seconds of Izuku not saying anything, the chains around him started to disappear. Izuku smiled at them and said, see, I told you. Everyone else there was kind of shocked. Especially Ice, who wanted to fight Izuku even more. Knowing that he was a level 1 was insane. The two Amazons were kind of shocked about this. And the younger one out of the two, or what appeared to be younger, said, Izuku, yeah? Do you want to talk in private sometime? Izuku looked at the girl kind of weird. And he said, yeah, I'll talk in private. I don't understand why. Tiona smiled at this and said, okay then, it's a date. Izuku was so confused. When then Tion said, Rookie, she's asking you out on a date. And Izuku was like massively confused by this. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to get into a relationship right now. I apologize. Tiona was kind of upset by this. And Tion's like, well, what do you expect of the kid? Izuku, how old are you? Oh, I'm 15. Everyone else there was shocked once again at a 15-year-old boy, level 1, being able to fight against the Goliath. Izuku states, it's probably because of my innates. I have 7 of them. Everyone else there was shocked. Again, 7 innate skills? 4 of them are stealed, 3 of them are accessible. Of course, only the head party was there. Everyone else was told to stay back. Mainly because they didn't want to interfere with Izuku. Flynn had already seen that Izuku was okay when he gave the order. Izuku then started to explain that his free innates that he has unlocked is float, which allows him to decrease his weight for as long as he ever wants it to be, as well as decrease the weight of others to increase speed. One for all, which is, as Deku puts it, a strength multiplier. He couldn't use it as its max capacity just yet, mainly because if he does use it as max capacity, he will most likely die after using it for too long. As Izuku then showed his hands. They saw Izuku's hands. The first time Izuku had taken off his gloves in front of other people, saw the massive amount of scars that were on his hands. They asked Izuku, how did he get those? And Izuku's like, that's a story for another time, as he puts back on his wrapping. Bait thought that was bullshit, but was eventually silenced by the other personnel that were there. Izuku then explained that his life currently up to now has some kind of issue that he needs to resolve eventually. Or hopefully sooner rather than later. Most of the personnel were kind of confused by Deku's claim, and Deku said, don't worry about it, it's nothing that anyone here can help me with. It's actually an issue that I need to go take up with a very specific god/goddess. I don't know if there's even a god or goddess with the divinity that I need assistance with. But all I know is that right now, currently, my main goal is to live and house and other stuff. Most of the members in the head expedition party understood why Loki let in this kid. Now, Loki-sama does let in kids from time to time, but it's weird to let in a kid just so quickly. Usually she talks with them a bit and gets to understand them better. Loki just let in this kid without any restrictions. Most of the people now that are there could understand why. Finn then finally breaks the silence of the entire group and says, okay, Izuku, I'm gonna put you with the head party. Izuku was confused and he said, head party? Yeah, so in other words, you're gonna be with us. I want to have Revelia check your hands, though. So when we get into the 18th floor, I'll introduce you to her. She's known as an excellent wizard. Way better than any other wizard that we personally know of or have. She'll be able to check your hands to see if she has a way to fix them. You said if you use your strength at a higher percentage, it breaks your body, right? Yes, it's kind of sucks. Really bad. That's how I got these scars I have currently. Of course, a few other scars were caused from fights I've had, but most of them have been this. We had a healer that could speed up our metabolism rate. Your metabolism? Yeah. It's weird. I'll explain it all later. Okay, as long as you explain it later. Well, I don't know what to say. You did kind of kill it solo, so all these monster cores are yours. Well, if they're all mine, then I guess I donate them to the Loki Familia. Oh, thank you. Finn, knowing that Izuku really just wanted to be lazy and not pick up the cores himself, because there were literally hundreds of thousands of small, tiny, shattered cores everywhere. Finn said thank you. We'll have the support group fix it up. No problem, Finn, Deku said as he smiles. Bait was still kind of annoyed with the small little one, but I seem to wonder on how the boy in front of her, even though they were the same age, had about the same strength, even though he was only level 1. Aiz was level 5 and was fighting for about 3 to 4 years by now. But he's level 1. And even though he did state he had previous training before joining the Loki Familiar, it's still shocking. After the support crew finished picking up all the small little monster cores, they all decided to head into the 18th floor. Deku was kind of surprised by the 18th floor. As he looked around, it was pretty nice. There was a forest in front of him, and also seemed to be a city on the horizon. Or, you should more accurately call it a town, not a city. As Izuku looked around, Finn noticed Izuku's excitement in his face, and he said, "Don't worry, Izuku. You can check out everything tomorrow." Izuku regains his posture and said, oh, okay. Izuku didn't mind about checking it out later or sooner. Eventually, they pitched up tents. Izuku then went to the commander tent after Finn requested him to. Izuku saw Finn there, Bait to his left, a dwarf-looking character to his right, and a girl standing in front of Captain Finn. The female had pointed ears, much like Ina's, but were sharper and longer. She also had green hair, which threw Deku off at first. He knew some people with weird hair colors. Her hair was a lighter green. It wasn't like the hair color of Froppy, which was more of a dark green. This girl's hair color was lighter, almost looking like an emerald in coloration. The eyes of the female were also green, which Izuku thought looked pretty cool, especially because he had green hair and similarly green eyes as well. Izuku walked up and introduced himself to the female. He said, "Hello, I'm Izuku Midoriya." The female turned around and said, "Hello, I'm Riveria. I heard Captain Flynn wanted to see if I could help you heal your hands, even though I'm not really the one that you should go to for healing magic. He still was wondering if I could see if I could do anything to help assist your hands. He said if you even use your power again, that you would most likely never be able to use your hands again. Is this correct?" "Yeah, that's an issue with my body." "Oh. Okay." And Deku asked, "Are you an elf?" Revelia kind of looked at Deku confusingly, because most people would be able to tell a high elf from a regular elf. And she says, "No, I'm a high elf." Izuku says, "Oh, my bad. I come from an area where elves and dwarves and every other creature other than humans don't exist, so it's weird seeing different creatures. For me, it at least says." "Huh. And where is this area exactly?" "Oh, it's in Japan." "Japan? I've never heard of that country." "Oh, that's because it doesn't exist here." "Huh? Don't worry about it. It's not an issue for now. I can explain it later, but I do recommend you go under some vows before I explain it." Riveria looks very confused at Izuku, and Finn said, "It's one of the secrets that he holds with Loki-sama. So, there's probably truth to the matter that he's stating. He's an outer world man. A guy from a different world? Whatever." Riveria looks at Izuku's hands, and she says, "Huh. Your hands look like they can be healed. It's gonna take me some time, though. it's probably going to take about 3 to 4 hours of casting healing magic to heal the base issues with your hands. Izuku's like, but they can be healed, Russ. Yes, they can. It's going to take a long time, though. Probably over a 2-week period. So every day after a 2-week period, I want you to come see me. We'll be in here for about a day or two as we restock our supplies and prepare to move down to deeper floors. I want you to come see me for an hour or two a day, over a 2-week period. During these hours, I'll heal your hands and we can discuss what you were talking about earlier. Revelia is a very curious type, so she wanted to understand Izuku, especially after hearing Izuku's massive feats of strength and seeing it for herself even. Izuku says, okay, as he leaves the commander tent, seeing how there is nothing else for him to do there. Izuku heads back to his own tent that he purposely put up for himself. As he lays down, he thinks about everything that happened today, and wondering about that creature that he fought. It was pretty strong, and if what Revelia said was true, Izuku could probably kill it even quicker. Hell, if he goes 100%, he could probably kill it in one shot. Speaking of which, Izuku's been feeling a lot stronger recently. He's wondering about why he feels so much stronger. Could it be receiving the blessing? Izuku sighs as he thinks about the rest of his day, as he slowly drifts off to sleep. And that's where we're going to leave it off, guys. If you liked it, hit the like button. Hopefully I lived up to your guys' expectations on this part. I don't know if I did or didn't. And until next time, goodbye.